You're watching the Tesla Live special Tesla Earnings Edition with your host, Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Live number 343. Here we are, the 24th of January, 2024, and today is the release of the earnings call meeting that happened, just wrapped up, actually, just a few minutes ago. And man, we've timed Wednesday calls great. Like there are,
we have.
like there were times when it would run into our segment, but it seems that Tesla has now got it down to how many minutes they're actually speaking, and that works out great for our show because we're running a recap just minutes after it has finished. So with that, let's introduce the regulars, our co-hosts. We have Mr. Patrick Connor joining us from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
Hello, I've got the new camera. Look at that. So bright. Hello, everybody out there in Tesla Nation. I hope you guys had a chance to listen to the earnings call. If you didn't, we'll grab the highlights for you, and it should be a fun show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also joining us from the other coast, we have Mr. Casey Green with us today. How are you today, sir?
Very sleepy, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
You're falling asleep.
Well, I'm falling asleep. I'm very sleepy.
I remember those days being a parent.
Sleep is
a
at a premium.
Yes. Are much bigger.
Yes,
Casey was just explaining and running around his house trying to avoid stepping on Lego minifigures all over the place.
Duplo minifig. I didn't even know that the big ones came with minifigs.
little easier to spot, Casey tells us. Yes. So that's a plus for today's parents. Get the jumbo minifigures from Duplo. Well, with that, let's get started. Patrick has got some information about the earnings call Q4 2023 that just wrapped up. Of course, it was a good amount of information was shared with us, and Patrick's got some notes for us. So let's go.
That's right. Yeah. So this is an hour and a half call or however long, plus the investor deck that comes out beforehand. So I'm going to try to summarize it in a lot less time than that. If you really want to dig into the details, you're going to have to go see all that stuff yourself. But here's some of the cool stuff. Record deliveries. So we've talked about the delivery numbers on here before, but here's one that we didn't know. 560,000 cars from Fremont alone, which when that was the old NUMMI plant, Mark, how many did they ever deliver in a year? What was their max?
They had a like you said, I think they had a run rate at once of 500,000, but they never hit that. 2006 was their maximum. And at that point, I believe it was about 328,000, something like that. I'll confirm that.
Right. Yeah, it was in the 300,000. So they're making significantly more than they've ever made in that location than anybody else ever made there. And this puts that one factory as the biggest auto factory on the continent. So we hear about how, Ford and GM have been doing this and they know how to do volume production and blah, blah, blah. Well, Tesla's kicking their butt. And along with that, Model Y was the best-selling vehicle in the world. And not just the best-selling EV, but the best-selling vehicle. Another highlight, they increased their cash position in Q4 by $3 billion, bringing it up to a total of about $29 billion. Energy storage deployments of 14.7 gigawatt hours in 2023. That's 125% growth, so more than double. And for some perspective, that's enough to run 1,500 homes for a year. A year. That's just what they delivered last year. You could even look at this another way. You could run 500,000 homes for a day. And next year they're going to deliver even more. So that's awesome to see. On their cars, the average selling price was lower, but their margins were maintained. And that's exactly what we want to see. So lower ASPs. That means a lower selling price, average selling price. That means more people can afford EVs. That's more EVs on the road, and they're still selling them profitably, unlike nearly everybody else selling EVs. And while they're doing this, if you look at the Model 3 Highland, for example, it's better in so many ways than the previous generation. So they're lowering prices, improving the product, and doing it all profitably. That's great. Good news all around.
Just a correction. It was 428,632 vehicles produced in 2006 under the old NUMMI management. That happened 2006. So, and that's the highest they ever got.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Tesla's still 100,000 more than that. So that's awesome. Okay. What's next? Oh yeah. Let's talk about that $3 billion that they banked. So 2023 was a high interest rate year, which generally hits auto companies hard because that means higher payments. So, and yet they still got this record result. Tesla is expanding in multiple locations. They've hired out, built out their Optimus team. They, right now, Cybertruck, most of 2023, that was an expense. And even now, the vehicles they're selling, they're not up to volume production yet. So, even with all of those factors weighing on them, those are all costs. And those are the right things to do. That's investing in the future. But they've gotten to this virtuous cycle where they can make those kind of investments and still do it profitably. So we can expect, one of the statements they made was in 2024, they're going to spend about $10 billion in CapEx. So you normally expect when you're in this growth phase and investing that you're not going to have these large profits, and yet they're able to do that. I want to talk about Model Next. As a lot of people call it, Model 2 or the Robotaxi, whatever, it's the platform. So we call it the Model Next here, and there was a lot of talk about it. Musk started out by saying that this is not something that they're going to talk about. This is not a product launch.
Hold on. He said to start off, I'm not going to talk about this.
And then he went on and talked quite a bit about it. And of course, this is, through a series of questions, and you keep asking, and eventually you get information, I guess. So their statement in the deck was that we are focused on bringing the next generation platform to market as quickly as we can, with the plan to start production at Gigafactory, Texas. This platform will revolutionize how vehicles are manufactured. Musk said they're very far along, but then said that this is not a production announcement. But then later kept going. He talked about how the Model Next will have 48 volts architecture and Ethernet instead of CAN bus. He said it's bringing cars into the 21st century. He went on to say there's a lot of new things happening with the Model Next. And so it's not just a tweak on their existing vehicles. It's a revolution. And that means that a lot of new machines and tools need to be produced. But then to make those machines and tools that don't exist, you sometimes have to make machines and tools to make those. And this makes Tesla very hard to copy, since you have to make the machines that make the machines that make the machines. It's turtles all the way down. When it was asked about when will they start production, he said their current schedule, which he put a lot of qualifiers and caveats on, is second half of 2025. But then when they asked, well, how many do you expect it for volume in that year? And he said, oh, no, I'm not going to make any predictions about that. There's still so many unknowns, so many things that need to be figured out. There will be engineers sleeping on the factory line floor. And there's lots and lots they still don't know. A final note on the Model Next was there was questions about why are they doing it in Austin instead of Mexico. And they talked about how to have the engineers there sleeping on the line. It's a lot easier to do that in Austin. But then the more important thing was the Mexico factory will only be finally designed after they know what the production line of the Model Next looks like. And then they're going to build the factory around that line, not vice versa. So that way you get the most efficiencies you can. And they've seen this at Fremont compared to, say, Shanghai, where they were able to take the learnings from Fremont and use that to build the Shanghai factory. So now they're going to make sure they have all this stuff figured out, at least the large blocks, before they start building in Mexico. They're ordering the long lead time things and other stuff like that, but final design is still waiting. One more
needs to be reboxed.
Yes, that is an interesting. We saw that. Was it? When did they talk about that? At Battery Day or one of their events where they talked about how they're completely redoing the way the cars are designed for the Model Next?
No, it wasn't Battery Day. It was the next one after that. They had. It was.
Yeah.
It wasn't AI Day. It was. It was.
Master Plan 3.0.
I want to say it was a quarterly earnings call where they talked a little bit about it. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it might have been the Master Plan 3.0. I don't remember. But yeah, lots of big changes there. Okay, the last thing was on ads. They said that in 2023, 90% of their buyers were first-time Tesla buyers. And that makes sense. They're growing, the market's growing, they're going after new people. So they are going to be doing ads that focus primarily on safety and affordability. Those messages help combat the misinformation that's out there about EVs. And then the CFO stepped in to say, we are not going to overspend on ads. He was very, very clear about that. Ads are going to be targeted at locations where they think it can boost sales, where they think this information will help them. It's not their job to remove all misinformation from the world, and so they're not going to even attempt that. One of the comments in there was that Japan is a target market because they're the third largest car market in the world, and yet Tesla does not have a share equal to other non-Japanese brands in the country. So superchargers and service centers are going to be coming to the land of the rising sun next year. And once those are in place, then they're going to push for sales. So I think that was it for the highlights.
That they answered that question about advertising, because it went in with starting with, a lot of folks think that the car still costs over $100,000, and
Yes.
And then when he said we're not going to overspend on ads, it's like, we're not going to correct all the misinformation. That's kind of a key one. Even if you're not going to hit the person for sale this year, if a new car is on the roadmap and they think that the Tesla is way out of their league, they're not going to save for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
A hello to those in the chat room. A special hello to Sadie Snyder, a niece of mine. I've invoked everyone to watch the show as often as possible. But the interesting points that Patrick collected there over that 90-minute presentation, I found it, as he had said about the Model Next, was interesting that Elon didn't want to talk about it, but yet he did release quite a bit of information about it.
Yes, he did.
And even being able to say that he believes it would be in production second half of 2025 was kind of shocking. I thought for sure that he might hold something like that close to the vest. But obviously there is a reason for this. Not sure why, but there's a number of balls in the air with Tesla, with that car. Factories being produced, lines being designed. We know that Texas is going to produce it first because they just have the ability to have as many engineers on it as possible that are already living in the Austin area. So it makes sense to do it that way. And then once you've got it down pat, as Patrick had mentioned, then you build the factory according to what the line is and start producing it in Mexico. But that car is going to be a very high volume car. We're talking, millions, 10 million. It's going to be, especially if it can come into that price bracket of 25,000 US. That is going to be a game changer when it comes to people purchasing an EV for the first time. Having that being that much lower than the price of a Model 3 is going to open up brand new markets, and there will be a ton of people after that car. Now, this is being said without knowing what it looks like, what its functionality is. Like it could be, a number of things could affect it, but that is really next stage, I believe, for Tesla. That's going to be their another jumping off point, just like the Model 3 was a jumping off point from the Model S. It's going to be on a scale unprecedented, and Tesla's going to have to be ready with multiple factories in order to get to those type of numbers, like 10 million being able to be produced. So I'm excited. I can't wait till this vehicle starts to come out. We've been, of course, watching this forever and hoping that we would get some information. And mid 2025, geez, that's a year and a half away. Obviously, there's some things that typically happen, but knowing that it's going to be in that window might even get people to start not, putting their next car purchase on a shelf. They know that this is where it's going eventually, but that's going to be really interesting to see as we start moving along this year and a half time frame.
Well, the theory floated that they're not going to show it until almost time to configure, which would be a new approach for them, but also it wouldn't be a bad idea for them given how early they've been in the past with other vehicles.
Yeah, I think the buzz that this car could get would be incredible, and I think you're absolutely right, Casey. I think the longer that they hold out, the better it is for them. If they can keep the details extremely light and just beyond what they said today, just keep that and that's it. Like that would be ideal, because if you could release it and say, okay, now we're going to have an event, maybe you give somebody a month notice or 2 months notice that the event is coming, but then at that event to start to say, okay, guess what? 3 months they're being delivered or less. I think that would be ideal.
That combined with people only knowing it's 48 volts, steer by wire and electric. I mean, and built with the unbox process. That would make some major buzz for them.
Yeah.
Rather than
I think with the price, that buzz is going to be enough to sell it in huge swaths of the country. I think it's going to be something that would be able to push that out really quick. And as Derek has mentioned in the chat room, you're not Osborning yourself if you keep the time frame short between unveiling and actual deliveries.
And worse than Osborning, we saw all the howdy faces about the Cybertruck not being close to what was promised, and depending on which trim level you were looking at. If they have any of that stink on Model Next, it won't be good. So if they can just surprise you the first time you hear what it can do is it's the production model, I think that would be a much better experience. I mean, not that the Cybertruck doesn't do phenomenal things, it's just that it doesn't do as phenomenal things as it could have done.
Yeah.
What we were told.
Yeah.
Right. And the closer you make that announcement to release, the better information you have about exactly what it's going to be, so you don't set expectations that you later don't meet. Yeah,
definitely. And then another bit of key information provided at the meeting was, of course, the success of Model Y being now the world's best-selling car in 2023 across the world, bar none. We thought this day would come. We weren't quite sure if it would make it in 2023 or be very close, but it appears that with the final numbers calculated, that it indeed was the world's best-selling car in that year, and that is a huge plus.
Yeah, I think somewhere in the deck they even said exactly how many, and it was more than half of Tesla's quantity for the year. I'd have to look, but I thought it was like 1.2 million, and we know that they had 1.8. Yes, right here. We delivered over 1.2 million Model Ys. So of the 1.85 that they manufactured, 1.2-ish were Ys.
Yeah, that's quite a percentage. Also, Elon tipping his hat to the team at Fremont, as, of course, they are limited in floor space, but yet they continue to push out more and more vehicles. They thought the maximum at that plant was going to be around 500,000. They've gone by that by 60,000, and they're still eking out little bits more of efficiencies as they move it along by moving floor space, putting things closer or away from those actual lines, and making it more efficient. And that's quite a team that they've been able to surpass what that plant could make. I remember doing the tour there and wondering why the vehicles at one point were being lifted over an alleyway and put onto another. But that, of course, was because of lack of space. And they were using every bit of space that they could for these different lines, because, of course, that plant was designed for something completely different. Tesla wasn't even a thought when that plant was owned and operated by GM and Toyota. But that's fantastic.
I like Derek's rumor. They're gonna make tunnels and have whole new production lines underground.
Well, actually, that kind of links up to what we had seen happen in Texas recently, with the boring company sending their newest tunnel boring machine, placing it and it's actually being aimed at the end of the current Texas factory, where they are starting to encase that as a new part of the building. They're building an extension onto the building, and apparently the tunnel where they're lining up the machine aims right at that new area that they're starting to enclose. So this could be a tunnel that leaves the factory in the factory, goes through the tunnel and pops out on the other end, which is a large parking lot for shipping these vehicles out. So
that's right. Quad squad, we can hide 800 vehicles under here.
But yeah, to go with Derek's rumor we're inventing, it's not going to be just to move the cars. It's going to actually be final assembly as it goes through the tunnel.
Yeah.
Why not use the space?
Exactly. So that's very cool as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. I noticed that the CFO during the conversation, he of course is still getting used to his position there, and of course you've got Elon with you. I'm sure you don't want to possibly put your foot in your mouth. So he's very cautious with the statements he makes. He's very short and concise. But that doesn't surprise me. The old CFO was a little bit more. You could jump in a little bit further with some details, but the new CFO is still being cautious as to what he's saying on a live feed, and that makes complete sense.
Yeah, he did much better than last time, where he got smacked down by Elon. He's had some media training and some Elon training.
Yeah, I'm sure that weighed on him quite heavily during his second performance. Absolutely. So yeah, that's good news, and of course, cash flow still putting billions in the bank. It's amazing, as Patrick had mentioned, that they've gone through this expenditure this year in CapEx, but still are able to produce these profitable figures. Elon had mentioned in his last quarter update that Tesla was kind of keeping some powder dry because they weren't quite sure how the economy was stretching out with interest rates and such. And they were going to be a little bit cautious when it came to, for example, the build out of Mexico. They had indicated, yes, we're going to build a plant in Mexico, but the time frame is up for debate based on what we see the market is doing at those particular times. So, and as it seems like from today, it seems that powder is some of it's still being kept dry, just making sure that we're starting to transition out of this high interest rate phase that we've faced recently. And hopefully the rates will start to come down and that will allow Tesla to move a little quicker, as they're saying right now that they're just still being somewhat cautious.
Yes, they are.
Very good. Very good. Well, if that's all we want to talk about when it comes to the earnings call, we can move on to some other news that we've collected through the week. And I want to give a nod to Patrick as well for a story he sent in at the last moment. Was about, of course, Canada coming up on top with some superchargers. And Casey, being Mr. Supercharger, I'm sure you're well aware of this.
In which way? There were a lot of superchargers.
For the voting.
The voting.
So, Mark, you asked for people to vote for, which city was it?
Sarnia.
Yes. Yeah. And Ontario did get one, but not in that area.
That's right.
Nope.
Yep. Renfrew, Ontario got the vote there. And apparently all 5 votes went to Canada for voting in new superchargers. A couple in Quebec, one in Newfoundland, which of course was the last province that did not have a supercharger. So that fills out Canada for all provinces with a supercharger.
Cool.
And then we had the Ontario, 2 Quebec, 1 in Newfoundland. And the last one was out west, I believe. I think Tesla kind of got embarrassed because Canada has been voting now for a number of, and we didn't receive one supercharger. So we swept the podium this time, and I can expect that we probably won't see another sweep of the podium for quite some time. But it was good to see that Canada got 5 voted in superchargers. And by the way, if you haven't already and you own a Tesla, you can now go vote for the winter session. You can log in with your ID code
already
and password for your website, the Tesla website, and you can vote for those new superchargers for this coming in quarter that we're already in.
And while you're there, if you use any third-party tracking tools to automatically track your charging, your locations, any number of things like that, 2 of the biggest ones have just made their switch over to the Tesla API from Legacy. So if you have Tesla Scope or Tesla Fi, and a couple others actually have already done as well, but they're not as large, you'll need to reauthorize using your Tesla login, and then also if you have a keycard car, so not Legacy, you will have to scan a QR code with your app to authorize what you want the app to be able to do with your car, as far as tracking locations, being able to start and unlock the car, that sort of thing. And if you have a Legacy car like me, aka you have a key fob, then only a key fob, no option for the key cards, then it will prompt you to scan the QR code, and then the Tesla app will tell you, you don't need this. Enjoy your day, old guy.
And of course, also related to superchargers was another story that was kind of a surprise, came out of left field really, for that new supercharger in West Hollywood that's being built. We've seen the updated photos recently. The round diner is being built, and then around the outside, we've got mostly superchargers, but a couple of L2s as well. But the news was that a property that was a kitty corner to where the diner is being built has been acquired by Tesla as well. And they're now planning on adding that new property, which is roughly the same size, and it will be connected to the diner property through a walkway or breezeway.
Not a tunnel?
Not a tunnel. No tunnel yet.
Not yet. Yes, I like the way you said yet.
You got to cover yourself, Patrick. That's just the way it is with Tesla.
Exactly. But, they'll have a roller skate ramp to bring your order up.
So this adjacent property is going to house a number, almost double, a little bit more than double the amount of chargers. So we're going to have 80 superchargers between the two, which makes a lot more sense because, of course, that diner was going to be packed with only 36 spots for superchargers. But now with another 50 in the adjacent spot. That's going to make it more of a party, and more people can show up and charge and grab a quick bite to eat or watch a movie while they're charging.
That is cool. That is really cool.
Exactly. Oh, and Moto has joined us.
Hi.
Very good. Very good. So that's exciting news as well.
One more supercharger story.
Exactly. Casey, did you see this post that we put up about Alaska?
No, I missed that one as well.
Okay.
If it's going north to Canada, you might as well just head over to the west a little bit and hit Alaska while you're there.
Do they get
we had seen this previously, that Tesla was pushing north into the Anchorage area of Alaska. They had a couple of superchargers that actually got built up in that area. But of course, there is a huge divide between that and the rest of the supercharger network that I guess you would call it the Alaska Highway, that would run through Alaska, the Yukon Territory, and of course British Columbia, then connecting to the lower 48. But just over the weekend, it was noticed that 4 new chargers went up for a permit in Alaska, and that is basically connecting Anchorage with Fairbanks, Alaska. So now we've got, and I'll just share the little photo here that we have. We can see the 2 down here in the south with Anchorage, and now 4 more terminating in Fairbanks. So those would be the 2 largest cities in Alaska, will now be connected by superchargers. And now all they have to do is start building out the other side of Fairbanks, heading in this direction, and get it connected with the lower 48. But every journey starts with a single step, and they've done quite a few here already as this connection with Fairbanks begins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's good news as well. Very good, very good. Next story we've got on the docket was some information about the Highland that, of course, has already been released in Europe and China, and it is now being released into North American hands. And last week we had a story about deep freeze that hit the Chicagoland area. Mm-hmm. And we had a guest on, Brandon, who joined us and explained his story about what happened to him in his Model 3. And what we wanted to do was, try to figure out how that problem happened in Chicago area, what the dominoes were that fell that caused it. And we went through a number of different scenarios as to why that did happen, and where the blame had lie in a few different hands, by the way. But this story that comes to us from a Finnish group, as in Finland, has taken the Model 3 Highland and has tested it not just in normal weather, but of course, bone-chilling weather. It's looking to see how well the car did against the competition when it came to minus 20 Celsius, which works out to about minus 4 degrees Fred. So that test in Finland makes complete sense. Finland is a Nordic country. They experience the cold temperatures just like middle and northern Canada does, and most recently Chicago. But this is great to see that they've done a test with the Model 3, comparing it to other brands. And in the cold weather temperatures, the car did outperform all the competitors. So the Model 3 Highland was able to come out on top. They used the WLPT. Is that what it is?
Is that the Chinese one or the European one?
European one.
Okay.
They used that to simulate what the range would be in a vehicle. Obviously, it's not as stringent as the EPA, and therefore the number is quite high. It's actually 620 some kilometers of range. In those cold, frigid temperatures, in those cold, frigid temperatures, the vehicle actually performed at about 300 kilometers with the minus 20 C operation. But again, over the others, it far surpassed, and it was able to claim that top spot. And rightfully so, with the Model 3 being redesigned. And of course, they probably look for every little bit of heat scavenging they could do with the car, with its heat pumps, with its motors, with their experience over the past 6 years with the regular Model 3. I'm sure they had a number of different ideas as to how to make the car more efficient in all situations, including cold weather running. So it was good to see that their efforts has paid off as compared to the others that were tested in Finland.
And there was no low-hanging fruit there either. I remember watching a professor who broke down the Model Y. He was explaining how they recapture the heat from the blower fan in the HVAC in the Model Y. It's a piece of plastic like this. They got the heat from that. So.
Yeah, so they're looking for every little bit of scavenging that they can come up with, and of course that's the beauty of Tesla, is that since all the departments work together, that allows them to look at the problem holistically, as opposed to certain sections are working or worried about HVAC, while other people are worried about drivetrain, while other people are worried about battery. If everyone is on the same team and it's a common goal, that makes it a lot easier for you to come up with solutions and implement those solutions company-wide. And that is something that Tesla leads the industry with, because a lot of their competitors are segmented like that, where they're broken up into different teams, whereas Tesla, and maybe because they're a startup, they were able to do this in this fashion, that they were saying our overall goal is customer satisfaction and how the vehicle responds to the customer and how to make it better for that customer. So being able to center in on problems and then spread it out company-wide to find solutions and implementations has really worked well for Tesla.
We can kind of see that in how the Monroe teardown of the I don't know if it was the Mach-E or the F-150 Lightning versus, I think it was the Mach-E versus the Model Y. He's like, look at this. It's still a little bit, but then look at this, and he pulls out like a whole table full of just stuff that's done in different unit groups.
Yeah, I remember when Monroe first tore down the Model Y, and they came across the Super Bottle. And they were just shocked that this multi-valve system was used for the entire car, not just certain aspects of it, but it was connected to all aspects of it, and giving you that efficiency that a single unit was able to source and push extra heat through it and scavenge all at once with just a single part.
And then 6 months later with the Octovalve.
Octovalve, yeah.
A new model year.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see if Monroe and Associates gets their hands on a Model 3 Highland to be able to see what the differences are in that. Obviously, we know some big items like the unibody design, the front and end parts of the car as a single castings. That's not a big surprise. Maybe there'll be some aspects of a structural battery pack, even though it's not using the 4680s, it's still using the 2170s. But there could be some glimmers of that as well. So it'd be interesting to see. I'm sure Monroe will get one of those and work on tearing that one apart as well.
Absolutely.
on the Highland, some folks were bringing up airbags on it, and I didn't quite understand why they were surprised by this. They're like, "Oh my goodness, now it has knee bags," and I'm like, "Didn't the 2012 Model S have knee bags?" So there is a new airbag in the Highland, and it's the anti-concussion, the anti-knock between the driver and passenger, so they don't bump heads.
Sounds like a good one to have.
Right, and that is new. I don't know why everybody is screaming that the knee bags are new when Tesla's always had knee bags. So, well, I say always, but since the Model S, their first ground up car at least. I don't know if the Roadster had it or not.
That's because they're orange, Casey. When they pop their big orange units now, that's never been orange before.
Pinch killer, and that means all do.
No, I'm not sure why there would be a big fanfare when it already did exist.
Right, like your car, the original Model 3 out there with one motor and the original battery pack. It's got 2 airbags right at the knees because our Volts had them, and I was like, okay, good. I'm not losing any airbags by switching to Tesla.
Yeah.
Speaking of fanfare, Model 3 and of course Cybertruck have been spotted on the trade show route. So the auto shows that have started in 2024. First international auto show was in Montreal, Quebec, and Cybertruck showed up for Tesla in their booth. Then just shortly after that, Washington, D.C. Had their auto show, and both the Cybertruck and the Model 3 Highland showed up in the Tesla display there as well. Actually, I think I've got a quick little photo of what the Washington, D.C. show looked like.
It's looking good if it's the one I saw on your feed.
Yes, here it is. Let's see if we can quickly share this up. Share. Boom. Done. And full screen.
Oh, I like that paint job.
So we got the Model 3, we got the Cybertruck, and a blue Model Y. When I looked at this photo when it was small size, I was going, wow, look at the rear hatch of that Model 3. It's a little bit off color. But as you can see, that's just a blow up entry point in the distance. So not as bad as I thought it was.
So leave that there for a second. Matt Watson was at a local auto show, or I guess more local to him, somewhere in Europe, and they were going over the exclusive red color that they've got, and Tesla had decided to tape off every coating and pass of the color. And Matt said, "This is why your paint costs $3,000. There's 13 steps of color." And like you can see where they put the primer on, and they put the first coat of red, the next coat of red, and the however many coats of pearl, and it was educational.
Yeah, obviously, if you get into multiple coats, which of course makes the paint jump off the car when you look at it, you've got that depth to the the flecks of metal in it really stand out. The more coats you can put on, it makes it look 3D, which of course looks fantastic when you see the car in person. But all those number of coats, of course, add up to time being spent on the assembly line in the paint shop, and that of course adds to the cost. And as an owner of the vehicle, after you own it, if you ever get a door nick or a chip off of it, you'll never get the paint right, because you can color it with your single little eye dabber of paint, but you certainly don't get that depth of feel anymore. But what can you do? Cars are going to get chipped and dinged, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's why my next is planned not to have any exterior paint.
And that, of course, is part of the allure of the Cybertruck, right? Is to have a vehicle where it doesn't matter where you park it. It doesn't matter that people are careless with opening their doors or moving shopping carts around. This vehicle's stainless steel exterior is going to prevent any real damage happening to it. Of course, you may go into a supermarket and then come out and find a crowd of people that are hitting and kicking and jumping and standing on your tonneau cover and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully the vehicle can take that abuse.
So do we suspect that Model Next might also not have paint, or whether it's stainless or not?
That is a
aluminum
interesting question.
Need paint.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, paint is expensive. If you want to make an affordable car, that's one way you could reduce the cost.
And would it be, would it be Cybertruck-ish? Is it going to be? Is it going to be squared off? Is it going to be that angled type of thing that's done with a smaller hatchback? I would say my guess is it's not going to be.
Right.
My guess is that it'll be more. It'll be more traditionally looking than a Cybertruck would be my guess. What do you think, Patrick? Do you think that they will go fully off into left field where it could look completely different than a normal car?
For a cyber taxi, huh? I don't. It's possible, but probably not likely.
Well, don't forget there's two platforms that are related. So I think the consumer car, they can make it out of aluminum, don't paint it, make it look traditional. But the cyber taxi, all the other competitors' cars are going to be bread boxes on wheels. So why wouldn't theirs be a jewel on wheels?
Possible.
Multifacets of the stainless. It's still a bread box, but at least you'll know which one is there.
Like we have heard that this next generation vehicle is going to be built on a platform that can hold different bodies on top of it, right? So there could be the possibility that they could go all cyber with one and actually produce a normal looking hatchback with another. That possibility does exist. If that platform is what it's going to be, then you do have the option to make changes or to make updates as new models are. And let's face it, if you've got multiple plants on multiple continents, as Tesla does, you may be aiming at a certain demographic or a certain customer in a place like Europe compared to a place like North America. It could be something that you would have two separate cars.
Here you could do a sedan or hatchback, and over in Japan you could target the K cars, and then in Australia you could do something that's a little more tolerant of all the wildlife they've got there.
Yeah,
trying to kill you.
Yeah, an armored personnel carrier is probably best in Australia, which of course is they're asking for the Cybertruck. Right. Hopefully they'll,
you can do the same car, but make it cost less because you don't need to armor it.
That kind of leads us to another offshoot story is that, although Australia is asking for the Cybertruck, we had some people asking in China for the Cybertruck. And apparently, the Cybertruck would be extremely hard to get road legal in China based on its size, its weight. But Elon had said we could send over some to, so you can look at it. And apparently 2 arrived in China just today. So there's it's quick to ship when you've got a plane. So there's 2 have arrived, and they will be going on a cross-China tour, apparently, to multiple showrooms to give the Chinese public the ability to see what the Cybertruck is all about. Yeah, there it is, Cybertruck brick.
They'll get to see it, but they won't be able to order it.
They could do like Saturn did and do injection molding of the body panels, and then you still don't need paint.
That's true.
Yep, that's what Saturn did. Absolutely. A lot of people swore by that too because of the ability for it to hold up when the car was put to the public. It gave them the ability. Yep, they could be hit by a shopping cart. They would smudge, or they would they would be scratched But of course, having a panel replaced as opposed to being a dent being taken out and paint being applied can be a lot cheaper. So that's another way to go. Absolutely. Next, Casey, have you got some information about the latest V12? What's going on with releases and what's happening with it? Because we knew some employees got it, but at that point, we didn't really hear much more. Any more info on that?
Yes, it is starting to slowly trickle out to the safest drivers that never had to take the safety test. And I don't mean all of the OGs either. I mean just like a handful, like Omar from Holmars and a couple others that just aren't as public as he is. They've got it. Of course, the employees have had it for a minute, as we talked about in the past. And, well, he always thinks they're always stupendous and mind-blowing and blah, blah, blah. So kind of take that with a grain of salt, since they always get the same adjectives. But some other folks who didn't get the download but did get to experience it themselves in like employee cars or otherwise, they said that it was pretty nice, but there were some regressions and there were some changes. But from everything that everybody has described and then what I saw in Omar's video, it's looking like that we're taking some steps in the right direction with this nothing but nets, as Elon likes to call it, where it's all neural nets, where the car has trained itself by watching millions of hours of us driving and correcting the hand programmed version that we have today. And this will be exciting. And in the earnings deck, they said it's started to roll out. They didn't say that only like 8 people, but so I'm expecting that we'll see it in the next couple of weeks. We'll start to see it trickle through all the different waves, and hopefully we can stay on the same firmware this time.
You know what I thought was kind of interesting was the comment about rain. They wanted the vehicle to experience more testing in heavy moisture, so they want to see it perform with rain following constantly. And of course, they probably have to go to a certain area of the country to get that. Patrick's backyard would work quite well today. But that's kind of interesting that let's face it, rain is when a driver loses a lot of their visibility when driving in it. And of course, an automated system, you would definitely want to be assured that the vehicle is seeing better than a human in those conditions. So it's interesting that they're maybe holding it back somewhat until they get it to run through these tests and confirm that it's not a problem with version 12.
The feature for V12 that I'm looking forward to that I thought was pretty cool on the list was smart speed. So today, if you transition from a 25 mile an hour zone to a 40 mile an hour zone, it'll speed up to whatever speed you have it offset to. So if you have an offset of 2 or 3 or 5 miles and over, boom, you're doing 42 or 45 or whatever. But recently, when there was snow here, whenever one of those transitions happened, I was like, whoa, 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 and I had to hit the brake and take it out. And it wasn't as environmentally as aware surroundings-wise as it should have been. And that's one of the new features, is that they're going to look at road conditions. They're going to look at whatever other traffic is doing and then make a speed determination. Instead of just, oh, here's the speed limit, here's your offset, we're done. It's going to be a lot smarter. And that's a good idea.
And then it's a lot more consistent with slowing down for things that it should, like speed bumps and railroad tracks. That's something that it learned from watching us. Is like, hey, we don't want a Dukes of Hazzard over every
Yep.
I don't want to say it's exclusive to V12. I just want to say it's more consistent in 12, because I had seen it in the past on like version 8 and 9 and 10. And then this past week, mine had done very nicely on some speed bumps in a particular lot that it has seen and done in the past as well. But these train tracks that always throw it for a loop, it wants to just rocket over them on a particular grade crossing. it actually slows down because it's a small hill, and then it starts to think about what it's going to do next. Whereas on that same track, just a mile, 2 miles the other way, 50 miles an
hour. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see once it starts getting out into the hands of normal people, as to what types of responses we're getting from those people when you guys get the access to it. If it's actually able to anticipate more than what it has been in the past, it will be very interesting to see if Tesla has crossed that. Because, of course, version 12, Elon has touted as something that is getting much closer to full self-driving as a whole, based on the rewritten code and the combination of the stacks, which now has happened as well, and now with the automatic learning it can do, as opposed to going through a number of check marks that were put in by humans. This should allow it to be more streamlined, faster, more attentive. I'm anxious to hear what the actual normal people say about putting this version into play.
Another thing to remember is a lot of normal people, the closest they've come to anything like autopilot or FSD is the autopilot-like systems that are available on the other platforms, where it'll hold a lane and it'll try not to run into the person in front of you, and it might not hold the lane so well, like it's going like this. So once we start to see some normies, as some people would call them, we start to see some normal, unexposed people get behind the wheel of FSD, and they say that 12 is more natural in the way that it does its maneuvers, not as robotic. That will help with some of the sickness and scaredness if it behaves in a way that makes sense to you. Once they see that, it's then we might start to see some of them push for their automaker to license FSD from Tesla.
Yeah. And June C comments that, of course, FSD hits every pothole in New England. And June, that's a feature. That's not an issue. That's a feature, and it equally does that as well here in Southern Ontario. Whenever you've got a climate that produces potholes seasonally in any jurisdiction of the country, what you'll find is that, of course, potholes form in the lines of traffic that people regularly drive in. So, of course, most of us drive in the center of those lanes. And of course, the software is trying to keep you in the center of those lanes, and therefore you're hitting every pothole. Where we as human drivers, I did this evening, just coming back to do this podcast. I was avoiding potholes by driving a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right of the lane, avoiding those potholes. But you're absolutely right, and that's going to be infuriating for people to start with. Not to say that Tesla won't start to navigate around potholes. They say that that's a possibility, that they could head in that direction. But, at the beginning, you're right. You're going to be continuing to hit those potholes as they get this FSD dialed in.
They have the techniques now. I don't know if they have the detection there, because if it's the opposite of a pothole, if there's debris on the road, I find that it does its darndest to smoothly avoid it. There was some roadkill on the off-ramp the other day, and it was right where the car always takes this particular line for this particular off-ramp, and it hugged the fog line instead of swinging wide and drifting around like it normally does on this particular cloverleaf. And I was like, oh, okay, because I was about to do it because I didn't want that on my car. And I told my wife, I said, she said she doesn't want that mess on her sneakers. She didn't get the joke.
Yeah, but that's something that has been reported by a number of FSD drivers, is that, especially those that are in areas like June and myself are, is that we get potholes seasonally, and until spring comes along and those potholes are filled, FSD is going to hit them. Like, that's just it's not surprising because it's trying to keep you centered in that lane, and just by that fact, that's where most potholes form. So with that, gentlemen, I think we will wrap it up for an evening of updates. Done quite well. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. That would help us out. Press that subscribe button. Again, that gets more eyeballs in front of this, and we would really appreciate a small show like us. The more eyeballs, the better. As you saw earlier from me coercing my niece to watch the program. So it's we'll do anything. So please help us out. It would be appreciated. With that said, Patrick, any shout outs this evening?
As always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. My latest post is my 2023 wrap-up. So what's it like to get a new roof when you have solar panels up there, which is something we did last summer, and what virtual power plant stuff did we participate in this year, and how'd that go? The outages we had, and our solar production. So you can find all that at carswithcords.net. Thanks.
And why did you do all that, Patrick?
Oh yeah, I'm blogging about my future free from fossil fuels.
There we go. There we go. Casey's, any shout out from you?
Yeah, catch us this Sunday at 1:10 p.m. Eastern right here on YouTube, youtube.com/KCGreen, KACYGREEN. We're going to be talking about IF Metal again. They've managed to find some more stuff. We've got the latest Tesla news, the latest non-Tesla news, and it will be a blast. And we hope to see you there.
Very good. Sundays at 1:10, correct?
That's right.
Eastern. Very good. Very good. And if you haven't already sent in your guests for Tesla production, please do. I know that JT has sent his in. Derek, I believe, has sent his. We haven't got one from Eric. June C, I don't think we got your guess. Looking for a production number for 2024. We'll add it to the spreadsheet and discover next year who came the closest. So with that, thank you all. We will be back next Wednesday, and together we will find out what's happening in the Tesla life.
Stay positive. Test negative.
Make it the moon.
Have a great week, everyone.